Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the 2021 VRG Annual General Membership Live Stream. I'm your host, Ian Wisman. I'm quarterbacking this stream here today. I'm going to hand it off here to VRG President Mike Lawton. He's going to kick things off for you, and we'll run it around the horn. We'll be here for a couple hours. If you have questions, you can email asktheboard@vrgonline.org, or if you're watching on YouTube, don't hesitate to ask a question there in the chat, and we'll capture those at the end. Thank you all for joining us very much. Mr. Lawton.
Thanks, Ian, and thanks everybody for joining. Good morning, good morning if you're watching this live. If you're watching this on a recording on YouTube, good whatever time it is for you. I wanted to kick it off by saying, setting what we're going to do here. First, we're gonna have some overview, and then we're going to talk about some initiatives, some of the results of the year. It's been a great year, as you'll hear in some of the reports going forward, both car count wise, diversity of cars. It's really been one of our most successful years at VRG, which is great, coming off of the pandemic and a truncated year or a abbreviated year that we had in 2020. So you'll hear more about all that as we go through. The other thing I wanted to do before we got started was introduce the board. These are the people who are putting in a lot of time and effort and energy and commitment to helping run events, make the events run well, run safely, and make sure everybody goes home happy. So to go around the room, we've got to start with John Wood. John's our vice president this year. He's responsible for driver committee along with Mac, and also is an instructor at the school. We have a treasurer, Scott. We have Niall, who is the secretary, who serves on the driver committee and is one of the instructors at the school. We have Butch. Actually, we don't have Butch. Butch is recovering from minor surgery and won't be able to join us today, but Butch does a lot of things. He does driver committee school. He was a past event chair at New Jersey. He's looking into race operations, and he's also on the eligibility committee. Graham helps out a great deal with tech and is on the eligibility committee. Paul King is our event chair for Lime Rock and is one of the leaders of the school and is on the driver committee. Keith is an instructor at the school, on the driver committee, formerly the PVGP event chair and potential future eligibility chair. Jim Karamanis, who is winding up his term on the board on December 31st, as he never hesitates to remind us, is a past president, is the co-chair of the Jefferson 500 and the Turkey Bowl, is currently the eligibility chair, and I'm not sure what else he's doing. He's heavily involved in the IT along with Ian, in keeping things running on the web page. Now he's going to be retired from VRG and will just be racing a lot. Ian is our PVGP event. Ian is not a member of the board at this point, but when Jim is gone, Ian will ably take his place and may not race a Pinto, but he will certainly be involved with the board. He's our PVGP event chair. He is responsible for the logbooks along with Scott Buriak. He's on the driver committee, and he obviously, as we're finding out here, helps us out a lot with IT and getting streaming going and web page and all those sorts of things. And I am the president. I'm the event chair of the Watkins Glen event, and I serve on the driver committee and will be helping out with the school. And so that's your board. Like I said, just to kick it off, this was a great year, and I think we'll hear more about that as we go along. So first up, we have Niall to talk about his secretary's report. So Niall, please take it away.
Hello, everybody. Yeah, Niall McCabe here, secretary. Just so you understand, there's basically 9 of us on the board that Mike just introduced. There's 4 of us are officers, and the other 5 are art directors. We're the people that actually vote on a lot of the stuff that drives the club forward. There's also a little cadre of people that are not on the board. These are our board plus people like Steve Hyatt, Mac McCormick, Denny Austin, for driver school, John Faulkner for membership. And there's a lot of other people that do that sort of stuff. And we sort of confer with a lot of those people, and we take their valued counsel, and then we typically vote on things. So that's kind of the makeup of how the club is actually run. Because there's 9 of us, the way the original founder set this up is that every so often we actually have elections, and we replace people. We're allowed to have 3 terms, and then we basically term out. So this year, as always, we had an election for 3 people, which means there's still 6 people on board that don't change. So we had 2 people who were incumbents, one Keith Lawrence and Scott Jansen, and then we had a new person come on, John Wood. So that was our 3 people that were part of our election this year. Next year it'll be Mike Lawton, who's our president, who you just you just heard him talk. He's not eligible for re-election because it's his 3rd term. I'll be up next time, and I'm not eligible either. And then Paul King, who's running our Lime Rock event, he is eligible for election again. So there's always kind of 3 people leaving and 3 people coming in, but each of us can serve 3 terms. I hope that's not too much in the weeds, but it actually forms kind of a smooth process as we go along. So that's basically the elections as they have occurred with VRG right now.
Niall,
yes, go ahead. Yep.
Just a clarification. This year, the membership voted a new board member in, and it wasn't me.
Yeah, I missed that. You're right. Yeah, you're the new guy. Yes.
No. It's Ian.
Yes. Sorry.
Ian.
And yeah.
You reviewed 3 years of election result or elections,
actually,
not
I
2.
did. You're right. Yeah, you're actually right. Yeah. Thank you. It's Ian. Thank you for the correction. And then the other part of what I'd like to report today is our membership. And our membership basically is very, very solid. We've had roughly 700 people for the last 4 years. We had 700 people in members, that is paid members, in 2017. We had about 740 in 2018, which of course was a nice jump. And then over 2019 and 2020, we had about 675, mostly because of the pandemic. Now we're back up to 717. So as I say, we've always had roughly an average of about 700 members, or a little bit more right now. So the club is pretty good, considering it's only a club has only been around for about 18 years. So relatively young organization, very, very tight, very efficient, I would say. And 700 members is a solid membership. Of course, that membership and the membership dues helps drive us forward. I know Scott will talk about that. Other things, our membership median age is probably in the mid-60s. We're looking, we obviously would like to, attract people from all different age groups. We did change our eligibility so that cars up to 89 would be eligible. That basically will allow cars like Miatas and 80s Civics in. And that's a good thing too, because again, that's likely to attract people probably of a slightly younger age dynamic, which I think will probably be good for the club. I think we'd all agree. Other initiatives that we've done, and this just kind of has to do with the secretary, is I obviously take minutes for the club, and as we run these meetings and take minutes for them, some of the stuff we find actually works better over email. So we've done some initiatives recently where we actually do some of our voting over what you might call email conversations. So we voted recently on new radios, new frequencies, a real nice expansion to our school, some leadership roles for Formula 4. Those were all basically done over email rather than our regular board meeting. It allows us a little more time to actually talk during the board meeting. And then offline during email, we can actually do some of the voting. So that's been a kind of a nice part of the of a little bit of a change, a little bit greater efficiency in terms of how things have gone. I think that's all I can think of saying, Mike, right now off the cuff. So I'll hand it back to you.
Sounds
Thanks.
good. Thank you, Niall. So
Okay.
now, next officer to talk will be Scott Jansen to give us a little overview of economically how our events are going and how our treasury is looking and so on. So.
Okay. So I'm going to do this more from a narrative standpoint, and I won't be lengthy, but I'll get some numbers on the screen briefly. But first of all, as Mike said, this year was a really good year for us. The entry count for, I think, every VRG event was higher than in previous years. And as a result, all of our events did better than break even. I think this might be the only year in our history where I think every event was in the black. And that's a great outcome for us. You know, we'd like to think the great turnout is because we run such terrific events. But it could also be that this past year was pent-up demand from the pandemic. It's really too early to call a trend on this and start changing how we operate things. But suffice to say, and the numbers will tell us this, it's a good year. So to clarify, VRG really takes financial risk for 4 of the events on our calendar. There are 7 events on our calendar, but for the Jefferson 500, Thompson, Watkins Glen, and Turkey Bowl, we rent the track, we pay all the bills, we collect the revenues. The other 3 events we'll talk about a bit later in this meeting, but we don't really have financial risk for those. So when I'm talking about performance, financial performance, I'm really referring primarily to those 4 core events on our calendar. So again, the results this year allowed us to build up our cash reserve. And I'm going to talk after I share the numbers with you about why we need a reserve. Why do we need cash on hand? But first, let's take a quick look at the numbers. So I'm going to share my screen. Let's see if I can find what I want to share. Here we go. So this is a 400-line spreadsheet distilled down to about 5 lines. But you can see we started the year with $111,000 in the bank. We had gross revenues, that's everything. That's memberships, event entry fees, a couple of minor fees we earned from our participation in Lime Rock and Pittsburgh. That's so 394,000 revenues roughly. Expenses, and again, this is soup to nuts across the board. I'll talk a little bit about where our costs are later, but about 320,000. So our projected ended cash is 185,000 for the year. And I've got a little cushion built into this. Our cash position today is actually higher, but we've still got some bills trickling in. I think this is about where we'll end up. So a net cash increase for the year of $74,000. So keep that 185,000 in mind. I'm going to stop sharing my screen again. And your first question might be, why do we need this much cash? And we've talked about this briefly in past general meetings, but I'm going to give it another shot real quickly. First of all, our target's a bit higher. We actually want to get to about $200,000. So again, why do we need that much cash? Well, there's 2 reasons. Cash functions as a reserve, and it functions as operating capital for essentially the business we run, which is putting on race weekends. So as an example, our payments, our costs get incurred before our revenues start coming in. In the next 60 days, thereabouts, we have to put down a $30,000 plus deposit for Watkins Glen. We have to put down deposits for Summit Point for both events, for Thompson. So we're laying out a lot of cash, and revenues for Watkins Glen don't really start coming in until August. So the reserve is, in part, is essentially working capital to run our business. We need to have cash in the bank to run the business. Secondly, if we have a big loss or a series of losses, such as a few years ago when weather scuttled a lot of our schedule, particularly the Jefferson 500, we need to be able to survive that and have enough cash to begin the next year. So not to pick on Mike Lawton's event, but the Watkins Glen cost this year is probably going to be about $100,000. If that event was a total wipeout, or if we had smaller losses at several events, we still want to have enough cash left to get through the following year. So that's the logic behind the reserve. We're getting to where we want to be. We're feeling really good about it. Hopefully another year will be as strong as this year. Time will tell. So the last thing I'm going to say is, as Niall said, membership fees are part of our revenue. I kind of lump our costs into two categories. Membership fees basically cover our non-event costs. These costs include advertising. We spent over $7,000 this year on new and refurbished radios for the club, for Steve Hyatt's group. They pay for merch inventory, some liability insurance, some other small stuff. So those categories, sort of non-event costs and membership fees, are basically a wash. And then we look to the events to hopefully do better than break even, which they certainly did this year. Mike, that's it for the Treasury report.
Thank you, Scott. So the next person to talk is me, to go over a little bit about the event schedule. Our 2022 event schedule will be remarkably similar to our 2021 event schedule. It's out in, I believe it's up on the website. It's out in publications. It's gone out in a blast. We have the two notable changes are that Thompson will be on a new date the last weekend in June, the 23rd to the 25th, with the first day being a test day run by the track. There's some discussion of a potential night race at Thompson, and that should be interesting and fun, and more to come on that. And the Glen event moves from mid-October. It had moved a number of times around in October, but now we have been able to get a September date after a number of years of asking, and so our Watkins Glen event will be September 23 to the 23rd to the 25th, again Friday through Sunday, and we're very excited that that'll probably get us out of some of the colder weather that we've encountered there in the past, however, unfortunately, we probably won't have quite the leaf display that we had in October. I think we might be earlier in leaf season, but I think it'll be a great improvement for the Glen, and we're hoping to grow that event even more. There are also a couple of other schedule items that may be added as we go forward. There's an advanced school that Denny is proposing that will be added to the schedule if it's not there already. And we, as a result of moving Watkins Glen from October to September, we may have the possibility to look at another race in October, along the lines that our strategy has always been a race every month is a good thing. You know, the schedule that we have is really, we think we're very happy with the way it's laid out. We have a great mix of geographically diverse tracks, very diverse tracks to drive, everything from you know, a small very short track like Lime Rock to a really long track like PVGP, Pit Race or Watkins Glen. They're throughout the Northeast. We have different types of events. We have some large festival events and we have some small club events, and it's a really great mix. Not every race will be necessarily appealing to everyone, but through the schedule, you should be able to find, I think pretty much any racer in the Northeast should be able to find a race that's nearby or relatively nearby, and has an opportunity for some cool cars, safe racing, and great friends. So with that, I will turn the mic over to Paul King to talk about the VRG School.
Thank you, Mike. I'm one of the chief instructors, along with our chief instructor Denny Austin and Storm Field, that have spent a lot of time already in the off season doing some major overhauls to what the school represents. We basically feel that it's become recognized as an effective means for introducing new drivers to our sport, vintage racing, but it is specifically to our club. It's considered one of the key recruiting items, I think, in terms of how the board views the school. And over the past 5 years, and especially under the leadership of Denny Austin, our chief instructor, we've taken the work that was originally developed by Ed Valpy back in the early 2000s, and we've really developed into a higher profile, very attractive and effective program, delivered at a remarkably low cost compared to a lot of other driving schools. One of the things we've added through this time, the last few years, is collaboration with other organizations and adapting some of the best practices, such as Bill Scott Racing, BSR at Summit Point, and their Friday at the Track instructor training program. The Motorsport Safety Foundation, which we're having beginning a relationship with, and VARA, who is our sister organization on the West Coast. We've adopted some of their processes, and it's all come together to really give us quite a big bit of content. One of the big things that we've really developed in the last couple of years for the school is the partnership with the BSR, Bill Scott Racing, Greg Haas in particular, on using some of their content and incorporating into our school that we have at the Jefferson 500, as well as a new, and I'm going to explain in a couple of minutes, our new VRG Advanced Refresher Clinic. One of the other new things that's emerging that's really going to emphasize adding value to our existing instructor cadre and prospective instructors is an emerging partnership with Ross Bentley with his Speed Secrets Weekly program. That will be a very good perk for our instructors to keep learning. One of our real philosophies is with our instructor cadre is we always continue to learn. I think most of our instructors on the instructor cadre come out of the school, learning more than they actually feel that they may give the new students. So it's a very rewarding experience. What we've had to do is do a nearly complete update of all of the documents and the processes for this year. So that's taken a lot of our time. But what we've really come to the conclusion is that our program needs a little bit a new brand. And we've come up with the idea that the VRG School is really a VRG driver development program. It's going to encompass more than just the Jefferson 500 school, the licensing school. And one of the new things that we're going to introduce for this year is our advanced clinic. So with that in mind, the two big changes and what our schedule is going to look like is we will have a VRG Advanced Refresher Clinic. It's going to be held on Monday, April 25th at the Jefferson Circuit at the Summit Point. It'll be a one-day clinic, and it's a collaboration between VRG and Bill Scott Racing. The target audience is up to 18 experienced and active VRG drivers, advanced, and maybe experienced drivers, but have been inactive in the sport for a while. VRG licensed, but do not need the licensing school. These will be licensed drivers or have been drivers that have had a license, maybe not up to date. The introductory price for the school is going to be $600, and more information will be forthcoming, and registration on MSR will be opened up in early January, and we will be sending out a lot of this information via a VRG update. Now, our traditional school, which is really a licensing school, will be, again, at the Jefferson 500 this year, May 10th through 12th. We basically have a school limit of 27 students. We have some capacity to add more than that if needed. The price for the school is going to be $495, but it now becomes a 2.5-day school in essence, instead of a 1.5-day school. The reason we did that is it gives us the ability to decompress the schedule, especially on Wednesday, and actually affords the students more track time, yet get the same amount of classroom that we had scheduled before. The registration is going to open soon. It will be, look for a VRG update that will be sent out shortly on it. And that's basically my report.
So Paul, a follow-up question on that. The advanced school, is that'd be taken in your own car? That'd be in the Bill Scott cars, or both?
Yeah, that'll be some of the information that's coming out on the shortly on the additional information. It will be a collaboration. It'll be on the Jefferson circuit. Some of the exercises will be done in the Bill Scott Racing Crown Vics, in addition to your race car that you will also finish out the day with. So it's kind of an incorporation of both vehicles. So you will need your race car for that.
Thanks, Paul. Next up, Scott sort of teased it a little bit earlier about we've been working on a member guide to our events to improve visibility and knowledge on who's doing what at the track and how the event is being run. So I'll turn it over to you, Scott, and to talk about the member guide to VRG events.
Okay, and I'll be brief. I'm not going to share this guide because it's too much detail and too fine print. We're going to be, if we haven't already, putting this on our website, getting it out to members, making people aware that it's there. But basically, as Mike said, we realize it's not readily apparent to you when you show up at an event why some events are necessarily run differently than others. And so we put together this chart basically listing all of our events, 7 events chronologically throughout the year, and commenting briefly on what's different about them. Tech, driver's committee, car eligibility, timing and scoring, gridding. There are other items, but they're all addressed, and there are variations. And it goes back to what I'd said earlier, which is 4 of these events are essentially run by VRG exclusively. Thompson VSCCA is also there, but we're primarily in charge. And then the other 3 events, we are partners at Lime Rock. Partners, not the right legal term, but we participate at Lime Rock, at Fit Race. And we have roles there, but we don't have full authority. We're not making decisions in some of these categories. And so we've tried to wrap that into this information and hopefully provide some clarity so that when you come to your next event, you look at it, you take a glance at this and say, okay, here's why, maybe tech is different at this event than it is at another event that I've gone to with VRG. And I'll give an extreme example. While here, the first event on our calendar, VRG members get the VDCA club rate to enter, but otherwise VRG has no role in that event. Not driver's committee, timing and scoring, tech, nothing at all. So that club gets the reciprocal position member rate at our Jefferson 500, but we don't have a role in running that event whatsoever. Nonetheless, it's on our calendar. Other events such as Pit Race and Lime Rock, as I said, we do fill certain roles, but don't have the exclusive or overall authority. So hopefully this will be a useful reference to glance at. I suspect we'll send out an email or a blast to let you know where it is on our website when it's up there. And we may send it out in the future or reflag it as we post notices that various events are up for entry. So that's it.
Thanks, Scott. Next up, we'll turn it over to Ian to talk a little bit about the logbook process, the first year of a new logbook process and how it went and how it's going to go next year. And then talk a little bit about the website.
Sure.
Ian?
Thanks, Mike. Hopefully everybody can hear me well. I'm sitting in the controller's chair here, so while I have all the power, I can't really check on myself very easily. Anyway, so logbooks this year, and I'm going to share my screen for a little bit, and then I'll take this down so you can see my smiling face and a sunny day at Pit Race behind me. We issued roughly 33 logbooks this season with the VRG. Those are issued at 3 select issuing events. In 2021, that was the Jefferson 500, the PVGP at Pit Race event, and then the Watkins Glen event. The same schedule will apply for 2022, so logbook issuing events again at the Jefferson 500, PVGP Pit Race, and Watkins Glen. If you're not going to be at one of those events, but you would like to obtain a logbook for us, for your car, you can reach out to us and we can coordinate something at one of the other events on our calendar to get that taken care of. Now, if you swing past the VRG's website, vrgonline.org/log-books, as I'm sharing with you here, this describes the general process as you're going to go through here during the logbook process. We do have a fancy online logbook application, which I'm going to change over to here. Thank you, Google Forms. Fill out all of this information in advance of your logbook request. This captures a bunch of information about you, a whole lot of information about your car, and importantly tells us which event you're going to be expecting to acquire your logbook. Those will be denoted here, and there is an option to pick an event that you are not attending and you would like some special assistance in that regard. If you do have any questions about that, you can email logbooks@vrgonline.org. So just a bit of demographics on the logbooks. As I said, we did roughly 33 books this year. Probably 10 of those were either extensions. People had filled up their prior book, or they were bringing a book from a different club. They had filled that one up, and they were looking to get a VRG book for their car. Pretty straightforward process. It's neat, it's tidy. You fill out the form, you meet us at the track. If you can send pictures in advance, that's great. If you can't send pictures in advance, we have a photo printer. We'll take pictures of your car. Eligibility, so that's either Keith Lawrence, Jim Karamanis, or somebody else that they tap to take a look at your car. We'll look at it to make sure that it's okay per our rules and regulations. Once they sign off on it, you go through tech inspection, and Tivy and Scott congratulate you on a job well done. They sign off on your book, and then we'll glue in your pictures. We'll get that signed off and pressed for you, and you can take it away with you. So looking forward to another good year of logbooks in 2022. Website updates, Mr. Lawton mentioned. I, as primary webmaster here, is going to work through the website. We're going to rebrand, and we're going to replace the existing logo with the updated new VRG logo. So we're going to swap those out. We'll probably do a bit of some painting around the website, if you will, and bring those colors into alignment with our new logos. That's going to take a little bit of time, but while I'm in there, we're also going to do some renovation on the driver school pages. Denny and his team have put together a number of changes, as Paul King mentioned just a little bit earlier. So we're going to be updating the content and the deliverables and consumables there for the driver's school. We're also going to lay it out, I think, a bit more logically so that either those new students coming to the VRG driver school or those perhaps attending the advanced driver school, you swing past the website and can get up to speed before you show up to school. When those changes are complete, we'll coordinate through a VRG update and a post on the website and our other social media outlets to let you know that's there, as well as updated links in any of your driver school consumables. Also new to the website, you may or may not be aware, and you may recognize the dulcet tones of my voice from the VRG Virtual Racer League. We're going to be bolting on a couple of pages for the VRG Virtual Racer League onto the website. So those of you who may want to get into the sim racing can also stop by vrgonline.org and learn a bit about what we're doing there and perhaps come join the league. It's a great way to spend your time in those frosty winter months for those of us that live in the Northeast. For those of us in warmer southern climes, you can still come race with us, even though it's probably 70 and sunny outside your house. And I'm just going to take a brief moment here and solicit, while the membership is listening, those who may be interested in some content creation. Perhaps you want to write an article, maybe talk about your car. And an idea that I had, as after seeing something one of our VSCDA friends had done, was they made a video as to how to get into a racetrack, specifically in that case, the Ozark International Racecourse. And I thought, hey, great idea for those that are new to our races. Perhaps we make a little something to show you the right way to get into Summit Point, because there's definitely a wrong way you can go depending upon how big your rig is. So anything that you might want to contribute to there, certainly send us an email. Ask the board at vrgonline.org hits a number of the board members. There's also info@vrgonline.org. And I think that wraps up my section here. Mike, anything else you'd like me to touch on?
No, thank you for that, Ian. Next up is John Wood, and John has two topics to talk about. Our code of conduct that we've been working on, and flags and a reminder on the spirit of vintage racing. So all yours, John.
Thanks, Mike. Quick comment on code of conduct. Our VRG board is developing a code of conduct that will apply to all of our people attending our events. It's going to be consistent with VRG's original mission statement, in which we expect all people at our events to do their part to help create a welcoming environment that fosters a feeling of friendship, equality, and mutual respect across the members, their racers, their crew, their guests, and of course, the many volunteer race officials. Niall mentioned earlier that we've been running upwards of 700 members in the club, which is fantastic. Just as other organizations have done as they have grown, we're simply developing a code of conduct to reflect these expectations. So we have a draft. We haven't finalized it yet, but as that does become final, it'll be shared, broadly with the membership. So more to come on that. The other topic I wanted to talk just a little bit about will sound a little bit like a drivers meeting topic, and you'll probably hear more about this at our drivers meetings going forward. But just some reminders here. We have separate run groups like small bore, mid bore, big bore, the open wheels and so forth. But the reality is, within each of those run groups, there's a pretty diverse range of car capability. So you almost need to think about them as, within the run group, they're multi-class. And inevitably, we have the front runners, the fastest cars at the front, eventually, catching up and passing the slower cars at the back of the pack. So the real issue is, like, how do safe passes occur? I think what we've seen is a relatively few number of on-track incidents with faster cars passing slower cars. But when we do have an incident, the majority of these incidents is a result of the faster car failing to execute a safe pass. And we've had a number of close calls as well. We talk about, passing to our students at the school, and how imperative it is for students who might be in somewhat slower cars and might be, passed somewhat frequently when they're first getting started. We talk to them about how important it is for them to maintain a predictable race line, and to never suddenly move off their race line, even if a faster car is coming up behind them. We also teach them that the blue flag is an advisory flag for their awareness, and to check their mirrors and to be mindful of faster cars coming up behind them. Yet, one of the things we've kind of noticed over the last couple of years is there seems to be a perception by some of the fastest cars that the blue flag means get out of the way. I know this perception, or this is not viewed by all of the fastest cars, but there's a couple. And, we just want to reinforce that the blue flag is an advisory flag. It does not mean that the slower cars up front or ahead of them should get out of the way. Again, we expect cars to be very predictable, maintain a predictable race line. We really encourage a car being passed to point by faster cars, and the faster cars to be patient enough to select the appropriate safe passing location. That's unlikely to be at the apex of a turn, but it's imperative that the faster cars coming up behind be highly mindful of the fact that the slower car is expected to be predictable, maintain a predictable race line, and the blue flag does not mean get out of the way. So, we put on legitimate wheel-to-wheel race events with a wide range of car capability within each run group. But we really value the safe race behaviors of our drivers and, of course, the post-race camaraderie in the paddock more than anything. So, we'll probably hear more about this topic at some of our drivers' meetings going forward, but I just wanted to raise that with the group here today.
Thanks, John. I think that's the end of the reports we have. Just in summary, I think we're all very happy with the diversity of cars, the volume of cars, the entries this year. We always look for feedback and sharing of thoughts and opinions by the members as to how we can make things better for the club. We all have our own favorite races, but in aggregate, our schedule, we think, provides something for a very wide range of different cars and different entrants, and we're very happy with the fact that we get to race at some of the most famous and even least famous, but yet very enjoyable tracks in the Northeast. And we're always looking to see if we can improve the overall schedule and the number of entries so that the club's calendar is appealing to the majority of the membership and potential entrants specifically. So that's my conclusion. I guess now we'd have some Q&A. So Ian, would you like to, I think what way we'll handle it is if you want to read out the questions, we can decide who will answer it and proceed that way.
Sure. So a couple of questions came in via email. We have also one here in the YouTube chat. We'll start with the YouTube question. This is from Eric Russell, joining us here from North Carolina. And Eric asks, just curious, is the cost for September at the Glen the same as the October date?
I think I should probably take that one. My presumption is that your question is the cost from the Glen to us rather than the cost to enter. My intention is that the cost to enter will be the same, but the cost from the Glen to us escalated 3% year over year from 2021 to 2022, and that was regardless of the date. So we're not paying a premium to move into September, although I don't have the contract yet. But what I'm told is that the rate from the Glen to us would be the same whether we took the September date or the October date.
Thank you, sir. We'll jump into the email questions here. Let me pull these up so I can ask them as they were written. From Rob Tommaso asks, is there a chance we'll have an event at New Jersey Motorsports Park in 2022? And also submitted here via YouTube, and similar question there from Jeff Taplesai. What tracks are you considering for an October event? So from Rob Tommaso, any chance of New Jersey in 2022? And from Jeff Taplesai, what tracks are we considering for an October 2022 date?
Well, unfortunately, Butch is a little bit banged up right now. He's in the body shop for some repair, so he can't answer that directly. But we are looking at New Jersey for October. We haven't committed to anything. We haven't signed a contract, but that's something we're considering. That at this point, that is the October gap. We would be generally looking for something a little further south, not New England, probably not Watkins Glen, both financially and weather-wise. So we're looking at New Jersey, and basically from New Jersey southward, I would say, is where we're thinking is an appropriate place for an appropriate event, appropriate track for our potential October event. I don't know. Does anybody else have anything to share on that? We've had an economic proposal from New Jersey, and we're trying to figure out if it would be. I mean, to be honest, the issue in the past with New Jersey is, we gave it a great go. Butch put a lot of effort into it, and we moved the date around, I think, 3 or 4 times, and regardless whether we moved the date or whether we switched between Thunderbolt and Lightning, we never really got to a point where the event was economically sustainable. We didn't get the entry volume that we need to over the course of a number of years. It never really leveled out at a sustainable as a sustainable event, but it might be that October is a sweet spot, and it'll work for us. So we're looking into that. Long way of saying we don't have anything to announce at this point. Certainly, if we commit to an event in New Jersey or elsewhere, we will announce it and get it on the schedule, and everybody will be happy and send their entries in.
Thanks, Mike. Next question here from Andrew Stein concerning membership metrics. Does the club measure active entrants year to year to assess what number and percentage of members participate in on-track events? Put another way, is the active membership expanding, contracting, or stable over time? Understandably, parenthetical, COVID has messed with this in 2020.
I'll field that one. I've been thinking about that a lot, and the short answer is we don't have that data today, but with our consistent use of Motorsport Reg these days, we can assemble that data. I was actually looking at it this past week. So I think we're going to be able to answer that question in the coming year pretty accurately.
Thank you, Scott. Let's see, I'll kind of go in the order these have been submitted, as a couple came in while we were talking here. We're going to give a shout out here. This isn't so much of a question, but it's a bit of a question from Bill Stoller, VRG's favorite cameraman and newsletter composer extraordinaire, and also probably slash Rob Tomasa there, who works hard on our newsletters. Bill did ask me to mention the VRG newsletter. He would appreciate if anybody wants to write some content for to get in touch with him. They'd love to have either some race reports or generally just racer content to put into the newsletter. If you'd like to help with that, you can email Bill Stoller or Rob Tommaso. I don't have their email addresses handy, but I will tell you can go to Bill Stoller's website at billstoller.com there to get in touch with Bill and help out there with our newsletter. Moving on down the line here, Mac McCormick would like, if Keith Lawrence is available at the moment, he'd love to hear a little bit about the VRG series and what's going on in 2022 and how 2021 went. So I think a general question there, Keith, is to the VRG Formula V series.
Yeah, I can speak to that. We actually had 3 events scheduled for 2021. And we actually added a bonus event, which was the pit race for PVGP. I don't think our car count was where we wanted it to be for the year, but I think we did pretty well. We had a few new faces. One of them was my oldest son included. He went to the school. And I think we're starting to attract some people that are on the fringes. They're running some other clubs like the Challenge Cup. And I think we're going to see more of them in 2022. We haven't put together the schedule for 2022 yet, but we'll be working on that over the holidays and early into next year. I think we'll keep the format the same, which will be, let's just keep it kind of low key, really have random prizes as opposed to trying to track points and have a positions. The interesting thing we did this year for the Turkey Bowl, and I got to give a shout out to the event chairmans for that, is we actually had a few of the modern Vs come out and run with us. They ran on treaded Challenge Cup tires, and from what I heard, it was pretty fun to have them there, and it wasn't, you know, any kind of disruption to any of the true vintage cars. So that's probably something we'll be thinking about for 2022. If there's events, we can include, you know, more of those guys. So that's kind of my recap. Hopefully that covered everything.
Thank you, Keith. We have another question here in the YouTube chat from Eric Russell. He says, I appreciate the reciprocity with VDCA, the Wild Hare and the J500. Any chance for more such events? This might allow us, the VRG, to expand our schedule to some southern tracks later in the year.
Maybe I'll take that one. We've actually, I can't directly answer that because we haven't discussed that necessarily with Mike Jackson and VRDCA. I did open the door to VRG in the other direction to see if we might partner with them on some events and have some reciprocity with them. It just seemed by schedule that wasn't going to align this year, but as far as VDCA, that's a good call out, and I will certainly reach out to Mike and see if they would like to reciprocate with us, expand our reciprocation. It looked like John, you wanted to say something, so.
I was going to say what you did, but in fewer words. So I think you covered it.
Maybe you should have said it then, because it would have been shorter.
That's fine.
Well, that does it for questions that have thus far been submitted, either to ask the board at vrgonline.org or in the YouTube chat. So I don't have anything else further for you, unless there's anything else the board in attendance here would like to wax philosophical about for a little bit.
Nope. All I would say in conclusion, and I guess this is wrapping up, is, you know, thank you everyone for your support. Thank you for your input. Thank you for your safe racing and your paddock camaraderie. And we look forward to another year of the same, only better. That's really all I can say.
Yep.
Very nice, Michael. Thank you very much. So we're going to wrap up here on the stream. Just for those of us watching, as we wrap up here, we will be hosting this on our YouTube page. It will stay up for time immemorial, as well as last year's AGVM live stream, and we'll probably repost this to our social media outlets there. We appreciate everybody for joining us out there. And if you have any questions or comments after this and you're watching it after the fact, don't hesitate to email asktheboard@vrgonline.org. Stop by the website at vrgonline.org and learn all about us there if you're new to us. And we appreciate you joining us here on this lovely Saturday morning. And thank you all to the board for joining us this morning and exercising excellent mic mute behavior. I appreciate it as the streamer here. And everybody have a great rest of your weekend. And thank you all very much for joining us.